I can see the headlines now. The Dark Souls of Spyro games. Jesus Christ. Anyways, welcome back to the Super Forge. There's really nothing super about us, but you're free to use your imagination. Everyone and their uncle knows the news, so there's not much use in building up some minute-long intro. The gist is, I've got information about the new trilogy that you probably don't know, and I'm gonna give it to you. Let's get started. Now, I had some doubts upon hearing this news from another article, but after trying it myself, I went absolutely nuts to know that the team stayed this true to the original product. If you purchase the Insane Trilogy on PS4 in North America, you can enter the code up, up, down, down, left, right, square during the title screen of Crash Warped to unveil the new Spyro Reignited trailer that's been going around. This is insanely cool, no pun intended of course, because this little Easter egg lines up perfectly with how the original Spyro the Dragon in 1998 was teased by Activision. Jeez, talk about a throwback. If you're an owner of the Insane Trilogy on PS4 and you live in the North American continent, please try this out when you can and just see what happens, because on my copy it works pretty well. Insomniac Games pioneered the development of the original 1998 Spyro trilogy, but even though the Reignited remake is under a new developer name, the team at Insomniac still had a lot to do with it. Skylanders' development team, Toys for Bob, requested Insomniac's guidance on a variety of little quips, animations, and details that they really wanted to make sure they got right. Insomniac's art team was extremely delighted to see that despite being 20 years apart, there was very little about Spyro's atmosphere that got lost through the integration of modern hardware capabilities. Insomniac described it to be completely different on almost all fronts, yet it was still similar enough to retain the sense of nostalgia and familiarity. Despite changes in its detail, soundtrack, and controls, it still does a great job capturing what made the original Spyro trilogy such an archetype. And by the way, when I say the Skylanders development team, I don't think that should scare anyone. Crash Bandicoot's Insane Trilogy, if you remember, was developed by Vicarious Visions, another studio that did work on Skylanders. So I feel pretty reassured knowing a team like Toys for Bob is the team that's bringing the new Spyro trilogy to its fruition. After Activision divulged their plans for porting the Insane Trilogy over to the Switch this July, it's kinda difficult to imagine a situation where the new Spyro trilogy doesn't get that same treatment. Activision, after all, does hold the rights to both identities, and both the new trilogies are being spearheaded by very similar development teams. So it's a pretty reliable assumption that whatever happens to the Insane Trilogy will, in time, also make its way over to Spyro's universe as well. Now, of course, what this means is a more than probable Switch release date maybe a few months after it comes out on PlayStation and Xbox, and a just as probable PC release for the two Sony mascots. Although it is worth mentioning, Nintendo's UK online store briefly put up a page for Spyro the Dragon Remastered, complete with a $40 price tag. Only minutes after the trailer was publicized, however, the listing was immediately taken down. Ever since, people have been raising their eyebrows, and rightfully so in my opinion. If you recognized the voice of a certain someone while watching the trailer, you probably already saw this one coming, but Tom Kenny was the original voice actor for Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon, and now his role is being substantiated as the official Spyro voice actor for all three of the new games. Now this, I think, is an extremely good thing, because if you remembered the voice actor switch between Spyro 1 and 2, it probably threw you for a loop the first time you played it. Having the same voice actor for the entire trilogy not only means people will find familiarity in how the game sounds, but also hopefully will find delight in the trilogy's consistency. Despite having a new arrangement of composers and musicians, the soundtrack also is everything you'd expect to hear from Stuart Copeland's music, only reimagined and a little more refined. It may not have seemed this way 20 years ago when this sort of technology was just now going public, but if you go back and revisit the original Spyro games, you'll probably remember the passive and active camera modes that you could switch to, where passive let the camera follow your character naturally, and active released full control of the camera's movements to the player. This was a control scheme that was so disorienting that one wrong jerk of the right analog stick could send the entire game into a catastrophe. And although the controls are largely the same, the camera has been updated quite a bit to match the fluidity of what most games offer. The camera movement is is much smoother. I'm sure there's also going to be some sort of sensitivity option that controls the speed of the camera, and you no longer have to worry about angling the camera correctly to see what you're doing on a really hard platforming section. All of these, I like to think, are incredibly welcome changes to the franchise. I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to revisiting the 3 seasonal realms of Avalar, and I'm especially looking forward to seeing what some of those skateboarding levels have turned into. I also would really like to know what you're looking forward to. Is it the boss battles, maybe the scenery, the platforming sections, the new music? Let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to hop down there and respond to a few of you guys. Thanks for tuning into The Forge, and I hope you learned something new. Until then, we've only got a few months longer of a wait ahead of us. Hang in there, guys. See you next time.